the other day, BAFTA, we covered the story. A lot of people had a lot of things to say. I want to talk about it today from a philosophical perspective. If you're new to my audience, my name is Brittany Simon, and we do philosophy through pop culture. I'm going to talk to my audience. I cannot talk to the hundreds of random and very racist and ableist commenters that showed up in my chat after I covered this story of this white man with Tourette's, John, saying the N-word to these actors, okay? Very unnecessarily and also unavoidable as they are ticks. He didn't say them to them. I should probably say that he ticked as they were on stage. And this brought the internet together in an all-out war, racism via ableism. I'm going to talk to you guys because honestly, I was overwhelmed with the amount of disgusting comments I had to read, let alone what these minority communities had to digest and interact with. And the ableism was crazy. The anti-blackness was crazy. It was just so rampant. It hurt my feelings. I have to assume it hurt yours. Okay. It was really bad. And because of that, I want to talk about what we usually talk about on this channel, which is philosophy. You are humans on a planet. We're evolved animals. We have a very differing concept around why we're here and what we're doing here. We are constantly arguing about it, going to war over it. We are learning about what it means to be a human every day. We're learning new things from a medical perspective, from a philosophical perspective, from a political perspective. When we're deconstructing, we're just finding new things about ourselves, about the world at such a constant rate that it's overwhelming. With that said, I can so deeply see why the disability community was so impacted emotionally and why the Black community was so impacted emotionally, because it was such a real, devastating situation that I think the system allowed to happen. And then, of course, the people are left to pick up the pieces, and it never needed to happen this way, right? We know BAFTA dropped the ball. We know the BBC dropped the ball. We know all of these people who had the ability to do something about this dropped the ball. And because they dropped the ball, we had to pick up the pieces. And too many of us are coming from too many different perspectives that it was hard for us to not speak past each other. So I want to talk about this topic, and I want to explain why it is so important that adults learn to apologize. We believe in breaking generational curses. We believe in healing trauma. We believe that our parents, if you have a parent like I do, older communities especially deeply struggle to apologize. They do not understand or know how to empathize with someone else's pain without feeling like they're being attacked. And I think that's what happened in this conversation here. And I also think there were way too many bubbles that clashed together. So white supremacists use this as fuel to be anti-Black, which was disgusting. Super racist comments in my chat. I did my best to regulate most of them. I did my best to catch them as soon as they came in, but so much anti-Blackness. It was like so overwhelming. And then on the other side of it, a lot of ableism, a lot of, John had a choice. He did this on purpose. A lot of misunderstanding about Tourette's. And I felt like I was in an auditorium and everybody was yelling. And I didn't know how to explain to everybody. They're like, hey, can we all just say we're hurt? Except the racists. They're just assholes. But you're hurt. And because you're hurt, you're lashing out. Now, my community here, I want us to pull ourselves away and analytically see what's happening in front of us and understand the bubbles clashing, right? And talk about how this works together. So we're going to come from an intersectional perspective, right? Intersectional feminism. Okay, we're going to talk about the intersections of disability and Blackness. We're going to talk about the perspective of being family members or friends of. We're going to talk about the difference between being an activist and just somebody, right, who has Tourette's. And so let's start here. This comment I got, so obviously when I posted my initial video, the apology hadn't come through yet. And then somebody posted the apology, which I would argue was not a real apology. You can check the link I also posted from People with the direct script, but this is accurate. So I'm just going to read it really fast. John Davidson's statement. So right here, it's a PR statement. It's not a direct apology. This is really important. An apology without understanding is a PR statement. When your parents hurt you as a kid and you say, Mom and Dad, thank you for raising me and doing your best. Just so you know, I am deeply hurt by some of the things you did as parents. And they respond with, we did our best. What did you expect? Or they say, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. Well, I'm sorry, I did my best. Okay, don't give me the parents' PR package that you learned from Boomer University, right? Do you deeply understand that I, as a child, exist in the world because you brought me here without my consent and you failed as a person in some aspects, but not totally? And I would just like to account for those failures as a way for us to heal as a family. This is what's happening here, okay? But in a larger sense. So John Davidson's statement, not an apology, says, I wanted to thank BAFTA and everyone involved in the awards last night for their support and understanding and inviting me to attend the broadcast. I appreciated the announcement to the auditorium in advance for the recording, warning everyone that my tics are involuntary and are not a reflection of my personal beliefs. So apparently this was, everyone was a little confused on who was warned, because some people said they were not warned, while others said that they did warn. And I have a feeling, again, that the system involved, the people in charge, dropped the ball. So everybody suffered, including John, but everybody suffered. Okay, so that's important. Okay. And then it says, I was heartened by the round of applause that followed this announcement and felt welcomed and understood in the environment that would normally be impossible for me. In addition to the announcement by Eileen Cummings, the BBC, and BAFTA, I can only add that I am and always have been deeply mortified if anyone considers my involuntary tics to be intentional or carry any meaning. This I statement is just letting us know how he feels. So he feels mortified. Okay, thank you for that. Now we know you feel mortified, of course. Okay, so he doesn't feel, I guess, like proud or prideful or something. He feels mortified. Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. He said, I was in attendance to celebrate the film of my life, I swear, which more than any other film or TV documentary explains the origins and conditions, traits, and manifestations of Tourette's syndrome. I have spent my life trying to support and empower the Tourette's community and to teach empathy, kindness, and understanding from others, and I will continue to do so. I chose to leave the auditorium early into the ceremony, as I was aware of the distress the tics were causing. I appreciate this effort he went through. Again, I feel like they failed him by not giving him the proper space or atmosphere to feel safe as a man with Tourette's. I also heard, and it came out this morning, that they also specifically put a microphone near him, which tells me once again, this was orchestrated and intentional. And I think they use this to go viral and to promote the BAFTA or to put it in trending. Because God knows I would not have known this thing was happening if this didn't go viral. I exist in a world where this was off my radar until this happened, which tells me they were trying to reach people like me who would normally never cover this, normally never care because it's not my bubble. Right? So them putting a microphone on him, then specifically making sure he could be heard, him literally, this is, I think, deliberate. And they didn't censor out the word, and they claimed they didn't hear it. Okay? So I think they did him dirty. Now, this is the end of the statement. And then Emma McNally, the CEO of Tourette's Action, they let out a statement. But I don't really care about this statement. What I care about is in this initial statement by John, there is no specification in the apology. So it's not an apology. An apology requires you to specify, understand, and deeply empathize with the hurt party. And there's two forms of apologies I will give leniency to and accept in this situation, not on behalf of Black people, but in general when someone is apologizing. There's two types of apologies. Let's talk about ways we can apologize to people because adults seriously need to learn how to do this, right? First form of apology. I very much understand from a logical perspective that I have hurt you. I will say in this moment, I am deeply struggling to embody this hurt because I'm not you and I can't exactly understand it, but I see that you're hurt and I am so deeply sorry about that because that absolutely was not my intention. And even though that wasn't my intention, the hurt is real. And because of that, I am so mortified and deeply sorry. And I really hope that I continue to think on this and deconstruct and meditate because obviously I never want to cause this amount of hurt ever again. And then somebody could receive that, and go, thank you for, I hear you, you understand it, but you don't understand it yet. And then maybe in a couple years, this follow-up conversation can be, oh my God, it happened. Hey, can we revisit that apology a couple years ago? I just had the realization of what you meant, like how much pain it caused. I'm so sorry. Like, I hate that I did that to you. I hate that you feel that way. I can't believe that happened. And it was me. I did it. My body did it. My mouth did it. My sounds did it. And I'm so sorry. And I can't believe it took me this long to have this embodied experience where I finally got it, but I get it now. And I hope you know that. And that person can receive it or not. The idea is that I accept that human beings are flawed animals on a planet, and we might go through stages of understanding. And I know this from personal experience. I don't always get why I'm apologizing embodied, but I can understand it logically. And sometimes that can feel not as genuine to the receiver. So you have to communicate to the receiver, I'm not getting it, but you're hurt, and that's what I understand. And if I understand you're hurt, that's all I need. I'm so sorry. Now, what happens is, if you've apologized to a parent who's similar to this, and I'm using that as an example because you probably do know, you will get a parent who will not care, who will say, well, I just don't get it. And I'm not going to work to get it. I'm not going to introspect. I'm not going to deconstruct. I'm not going to engage. I'm not in any way going to open myself up to understanding your position. And I'm going to maintain that you're a spoiled brat. How about that? Which is a lot of the comments that I read on my post, a lot of comments that I read on the internet. To the Black community, they were saying, you are spoiled, you are entitled. I can't believe you needed a disabled man to apologize. You sound like my mother. You sound like my mother, who in no way, shape, or form is willing to do the work to genuinely apologize for the hurt caused. You sound like my father. You sound like a 65-year-old boomer who's not willing to do the work. So that says more about your character than anybody else's. Your inability to recognize why an apology is powerful is your responsibility. Example, this person said, are you stupid? That's to me. The film he was there for was about how he shouldn't have to apologize for things he cannot control. He owes nobody an apology, full stop. This virtue signaling is pathetic. Now, people said, if you watch the video, Brittany, there's a whole section in the video of the trailer of the movie that explains he shouldn't have to apologize. Here's the little bit of that from the trailer they're talking about.
We're coming for something to eat, John.
He's going to this woman to help him with his Tourette's.
Fuck off, you wanker.
Well, it's nice to meet you too.
Sorry.
Oh, so he apologizes in the movie. No, that he calls her a name and then he apologizes, right? He's going to her as like a mentor, like someone to help him with his Tourette's, right?
If you do anything here that you can't help, you never apologise.
Tommy. Okay, note media literacy in the toilet. If you do anything here that you don't mean to do, you don't have to apologize. She is consenting. She's giving her consent that in this space with me, you don't have to apologize. Please note, she is allowed to do that. She is allowed to do that. All of us are allowed to do that. That is not the same thing as saying all people everywhere should not have any problem with what they're hearing or how they're experiencing his tics. Because again, even though he ticked, and it is not his choice to tick, okay? It is his responsibility to apologize and to tell people what's going on. And yes, every single time until otherwise established. Yes, including every single time. He's not apologizing for his existence. He's apologizing for the unintended hurt caused. If you're in public and you are saying something, hey, bro, I'm sorry, bro. I have Tourette's. Oh, okay, bro. Thanks. Sorry. Oh, no problem. Thank you for apologizing. Right? You have to apologize because it's a requirement of a community building itself. If we want a community that's high trust, you have to apologize. If you want a community that's low trust, then whatever. Right? You have to apologize. Now, when I did DBT, okay, I did DBT, and I have a lot of diagnoses that people discriminate against me for. That's why I avoid the internet when talking about it, because people are so not informed about my diagnoses that the assumption that I'm an evil person, or the assumption that I'm faking, or the assumption, it's so bad for your mental health. And these people don't know what they're talking about. So you have to deconstruct who is talking to you. We have white racists in one corner justifying the use of the N-word. We have one corner disabled activists that are concerned they're about to be attacked by communities. We have Black people who have experienced anti-Blackness for so long They're fucking sick of it, as they should be, right? So we have all of these parties. We have to make sure we are not giving in to white supremacy. And you have to understand that if the largest group supporting you in your pain is white supremacists, you might want to say something in a statement, John. You might want to say, hey, in no way, shape, or form do I want the white supremacists supporting me. In no way, shape, or form do I want white people justifying the use of the N-word. In no way, shape, or form am I going to be used, my name is going to be used to justify the N-word. Okay? He needs to come out with his full chest and understand, as much as he wants to say in interviews he has no racist bone in his body. Great, John. We don't know you. And also, the racists are using your name to justify the N-word. So, make it make sense. Okay, now, there is something to be said, okay, about when you go to therapy, what your therapist tells you as a way for you to grow as a person. So I'm in DBT. I go to therapy. And my therapist tells me I have to go apologize to my parents. And I say, what? Why? They hurt me. They're the reason I'm in this office. They're the reason I'm diagnosed right now because it's childhood trauma. Why do I have to apologize to my parents? And my therapist said, you need to apologize to everybody you've hurt. Period. Because what you're doing is you're living within your values. You're cleaning up your side of the street. You're doing the right thing no matter what. So you need to apologize for the hurt you caused and don't explain it away unless they ask, but apologize if it's within your values, okay? And that's what I did. I went to people and I said, hey, I just want to say, I'm so sorry. I'm in therapy. I was originally diagnosed. And I'm realizing that, you know, before I had answers for what was happening during that time, I'm sorry that I kept canceling on you and I wasn't a good supportive friend. Hey, I'm really sorry that I yelled at you and slammed the door as I left the house. And I'm sorry that I acted that way. The idea is to, in your ideal situation, aim to be your ideal self, the self that you know is regulated and healthy and good. That self is apologizing. I'm not apologizing for being sick. I'm not apologizing for being diagnosed. I'm not apologizing for being disabled. I'm apologizing for what my body did when I was dysregulated. I'm apologizing for what my mouth said when I was dysregulated. I'm apologizing for this vessel that carries my consciousness that sometimes acts in its own accord out of self-defense, because that's what really happened. I'm apologizing to myself for fawning and staying still when I was being assaulted. I'm apologizing to myself for living in a body that doesn't always do what I wanted to do. I'm apologizing and saying, I am so sorry that you had to feel the pain and consequence of living and interacting with this body. Because we are at the mercy of these forms that our consciousness exists in. You're apologizing for the pain. When my friend went through psychosis and their body did things that they didn't understand what was happening because they were in psychosis land and they came to, I said, you need to go apologize to people. And they were like, well, I was in psychosis. I was like, you're not apologizing for being in psychosis. You're apologizing for what your body did when you were in psychosis. You're apologizing for what your body did because I don't think you're your body. I think you're your body, your brain, and your consciousness. I think you're more than your thoughts, and I think you're more than your words. I think you're more than your actions. I think human beings are so complex and so much deeper and so much more, there's so much complexity here that's why this problem is so hard, because on top of the real, genuine problems that people are facing, they still can be racist. They still can be homophobic. They still can be transphobic. They still were raised in a white supremacist patriarchal world they need to deconstruct. We're still existing in these bodies that get treated differently because we live in a horrible world, right? We're still existing with all of these layers. That's the intersection part, right? We're living within the intersection of all of these layers, and we have to deconstruct and take it apart to understand it. And then on top of that, what if you're the only one in the room doing the work and everybody else isn't in your community, and then you're trying to build community that still invites the pedophile to the barbecue? Oh, whew, that's a lot. And you still have to pay taxes and go to work and work 80 hours a week to just afford an Uber, takeout. Like, we're struggling, we're stressed. And, not to mention there's a genocide happening in multiple places. Not to mention millions of people are being displaced and starving to death. The world is a really fucked up place. And as long as grown-ass adults stop deconstructing and won't go to therapy and won't learn to apologize and won't learn to heal wounds, the world will continue to be what it is. So you can make a decision about how you want to show up in the world. But if you understand that the world already sucks as it is, then the job we now have is to do less bad. Not to try to be a better person, but to try to do less bad, because then we are acknowledging that we are bad. Not evil, not like philosophically evil, not spiritually evil. Like I don't believe in the devil or magic or anything, right? We are animals on a planet, and we have this thing that we are at the mercy of a lot of the time. And we're at the mercy of this thing too, this brain thing. And we're at the mercy of our education and our community and who raised us. And if they went to therapy or they deconstructed, if they did philosophical work, like it feels so overwhelming. As I was reading these comments, I got so like this feeling. I felt like I was sitting there and I feel like people were throwing their blankets on top of me. And all of the blankets they were throwing on top of me was their baggage and all of their fucking racism and bigotry and ableism. And I felt as I was reading comments, oh my God, this is a horrible feeling. Now imagine how everyone feels when they're living it every day. Now imagine you're existing in a black body in a white supremacist world. Now imagine you're existing in a disabled body in an ableist world. Now imagine all of the layers to this are so heavy. The only way for us to alleviate pain in our community is to acknowledge that we are causing it. And so John would have done better to have said, I said a word that when the Black community hears it, it can lead to so much dysregulation and activation and triggering. And I am so sorry that I was responsible for my body, my mouth saying a word that is just so hurtful and so real and impactful. And I can only do my best to recognize it and apologize to the Black community, to anybody that felt it and in their body felt that sensation of feeling unsafe, because as an activist, I never want anyone to feel unsafe. And I did that. My body, my tick elicited in a lot of people a feeling of unsafety. And I am so sorry about that, right? Like, that's the point. All the people in my comment section, they were like, obviously there's a racist narrative going around that like Black people say the N-word all the time. Black people are trying to reclaim the Black word or the N-word. They're like, I'm Black too, Brittany, which I don't even know, by the way, girls. When people in my chat go, I'm Black too, and I don't know if they're Black. They could be a white person pretending, they could be a troll, they could be AI, but they're like, Black people have been, using the N-word. First of all, Black people do not use the hard ER. Not from my understanding. Is the reclaim slur is transformed into something that's more community building in the community, right? I don't think Black people casually are throwing around the ER. So specifically him yelling the ER is like a very triggering experience for a lot of people. The white supremacists trying to make arguments about like, well, what about reclaiming slurs? What about reclaiming slurs? Yeah, like that's for them to reclaim, not for oppressors to claim. So white people who are like, well, if they can use it, why can't we use it? It's not our slur to reclaim. It's not ours. Like ours is a construct. Yes, we made it up. And yes, we're putting an emphasis and power in a word because there is power in that word. Things that are made up hold power. That's how we got religion. Religion is made up, and look at all the power it has. Religion is so powerful as a made up concept, miracles happen. Miracles, in quotation marks. It doesn't have to be real for it to have real impact. It is real though, because we put that power into it. And if the power is going to be put into it, then we have to have a different relationship with how we engage in the word, right? So the word does matter. It signals something, just like your haircut can signal, just like your clothing choices can signal, just like where you live can signal. Everything can be a communication tool. And you have to pay attention to that. So again, I don't want us to confuse what white racists are saying with anything the the disabled community is fighting against ableism and or Black communities are hurt. So the only people that are important in this conversation are everybody but the racists. Like everybody matters but the racists. We cannot allow racist people to be in this conversation with us because they are not trying to deconstruct. They are not trying to be progressive. They are not trying to heal their communities. They are here to divide us. Okay? White supremacy is once again trying to divide our communities because Black disabled people exist and those white supremacists don't care about them. Those white supremacists that are defending a white disabled man do not care about Black disabled people. So when they get in my chat or anywhere in this conversation, they go, I can't believe you're trying to control what a disabled man is saying. Would never fight that hard for a Black disabled person. for a black person with Tourette's. But they will use black people who have Tourette's as a weapon against other black people. So remember that, right? Okay. This comment from a member as well. Thank you so much. And my Discord had also brought up this morning, like, what does this community expect? What does Brittany expect, right? Let's talk about that, right? Chet said he's not responsible for his ticks. He's not responsible for the fact that he ticks. He is responsible for the harm his ticks cause. And his ticks can cause harm, which, okay, just, before I go into that comment section, let me show you this really fast. Because this is a really simplified way to process this information, which apparently some people in chat might need. Okay, hold on. Let me bring it up here. Find it. Here we go. Okay, so this is the "I'm deeply mortified if anyone considers my involuntary tics to be intentional." Okay.
If I was holding in a fart for 3 days and then one day it just comes out against all of my control in front of a group of people, the immediate thing I am doing is apologizing. Because regardless of whether or not it was involuntary, my bodily functions upset and offended a group of people. And naturally, I am going to be ashamed and embarrassed about it. I'm certainly not going to be like, I am deeply mortified if anybody thinks that I was able to control my asshole. There's no apology because he's not sorry. Period. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's faking his Tourette's because even I don't believe that, but I do think it's very interesting that he waited for a silent moment while 2 stars of a film that is highly controversial amongst people of a certain hue to say that.
Okay, so how does his argument flaw at the end? So the first part of his argument, really good. The ending part of it, ignorant. Are we saying ignorant? We've been trying to use not the word stupid. It's dumb. It's ill-informed. It's uneducated. That's not how Tourette's works. But the first part of his argument, beautiful. The first part of his argument, exactly. Okay, sometimes you fart, you apologize because it stinks. Okay, the last part, ignorant, uneducated, unnecessary, deeply cruel, misunderstanding. Use whatever word you need to use. But you see how one person can be right about one part and wrong about the other? That's why we have to educate ourselves, so we can be right about both things, which we think we are in this community. We have the most correct opinion. I'm going to say it. Okay? Black people have the right to feel hurt, activated, and triggered by the N-word. It's incredibly triggering. And, okay, because it is the hard ER, it is a slur used by a white man, unprepared, just completely shocking. Okay? And tics are real, Tourette's is real, disability is real, and it must be very hard to live in a world where you have this uncontrollable tic. That must be really difficult, right? Okay. Chet says, does he need to apologize 100 times in a day if that's what it takes? Yeah. I'll show you another example, guys. Trust me, any question you have, I have an answer to because this is what I do for a living. Yes. If you need to apologize 100 times a day, abso-fucking-lutely. Is it 100 different people who haven't seen you today, or is it the same person? Example, we call this blanket consent, okay? Let's say my sibling or my friend has a Tourette's and they say a queer slur at me and they are using a lot of misogynistic language in their tics. The first time they do it, I will say, and they'll say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, that's okay. Thank you for explaining. I appreciate the apology. Now I understand why it's happening. Let's hang out today. And throughout the day, if they keep doing it and I just go, okay, no big deal. Like I ignore it or I go for it. Okay. That's okay. I've given blanket consent for them to understand they do not have to apologize throughout the day. They've already explained it to me. I'm going to hang out with them. But I also reserve the right to say, I love you. We've been hanging out for 6 hours. And if I hear another slur thrown my way, I'm going to get very upset. I'm overstimulated because I am autistic as well. And I also can get overstimulated because I'm a person with feelings too. Is it okay if we stop hanging out for a bit? I love you. And they're like, yeah, I love you too. Thank you for hanging out with me so much. Okay, love you. Bye. We both get to be overstimulated. We both get to feel our feelings. We both get to say, hey, I love you so much. I've given you blanket consent. I'm not going to expect you to apologize all day. Okay, different example. I'm a person with Tourette's and I'm going throughout my day, and within the day, I meet 100 different human beings who have no context for who I am. Every single time I throw a slur their way, I expect to apologize to them because they don't know me or the context. Okay? Chad said, this is like saying if you have a cold, you need to apologize every time you cough or sniffle. It can't be helped. Yes, I expect you to apologize. Again, in my perfect society, we recognize the social situation, we read the room. Okay? We acknowledge what's happening and we do better. First of all, why are you even socializing with a cold girl? Go home, wear a mask. Are you even wearing a mask? What are you saying? Yes, when you sneeze, you say, excuse me. At least in my culture. Now, you might be in a different culture and you can live in that bubble. Okay? But in my bubble, yes, when you sneeze, you say, excuse me. I don't know where you grew up, but that's called manners. So maybe we live in a different bubble with a different cultural expectation. That's fine. But in my bubble, where I am from, because the world doesn't revolve around you, we say, excuse me. Now, in the same front, the world doesn't revolve around me, but in my bubble, the social expectation of communication to say, I hear you and I'm sorry, is to acknowledge. And if you're not even going to acknowledge it, you must come from a different culture, which I am open to. And, or when we interact with different cultures, we must be aware of what it looks like. Okay? Do you get what I'm saying? So yeah, you do apologize. Exactly. You have to apologize. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I have a cold today. I'm so sorry. That's okay. Thank you for telling me. Can you stand 6 feet away from me? Oh, do you mind wearing a mask if you have a cold? I'm autoimmune compromised. Oh, but you don't care about immune compromised people, do you? You don't care about wearing masks. You don't care about other intersections of disability because they don't hit your radar. All you're concerned about is not having your feelings hurt because God forbid you have to say sorry. So you're willing to acknowledge you're sick in public, but God forbid if somebody has a problem with that. How about that other layer? And then the other layer on top of that is we can't afford to call out sick because in America, we don't get sick leave and we don't get sickness paid and then we might lose our jobs. So then we let people come to work sick because God knows they have to pay their rent. And then we're deeply empathetic, but damn, look at us all suffering in community because nobody will fight a system that needs to be dismantled. Because you're right, it's too hard. Okay? Chad said, you say you're open to other cultures, but you're having a rant about how people with other cultures have to conform to your culture. In my bubble, yeah. If we're interacting, we have to both conform to each other's cultures. We have to meet each other in the middle. Yes, Habibis, yes, focus, lock in. That's how it works to live in a world of diversity. We both have to make concessions. We both have to make concessions. That's how socializing works. If you come to my home, you conform to my home. If I come to your home, I conform to your home, or I do not consent to conform. If we live in a society and a diverse culture, we have to meet people in the middle. Okay? If you know, you're hanging out with your Muslim coworkers and they have to go wash their hands or feet or pray 5 times a day, I support you. Go to the bathroom and do that. I support you. Take a break 5 times a day. I support you. If you're a person who's disabled and you need a moment to regulate in the bathroom, I support you, right? It's not my culture. It's not my bubble. It's not my disability. I support you, right? I don't have to do it though. And that's what we're afraid of. We're afraid of somebody who isn't a part of these groups, faking they're a part of these groups to take advantage of people. Yeah, those people suck. Okay? Those people suck. Chad says, should Ethan from H3 apologize every time he ticks? He does. Ethan often apologizes for his ticks. Not all of them always, but when they are disruptive and or confusing to people, he apologizes because he's aware that people might not know what's going on. Many people don't know he has Tourette's, and it's still ableist to assume he's on drugs because he is ticking. The fact that you guys are not willing to meet people in the middle is exactly what's wrong with the world. You are uneducated and ignorant. You are entitled. And you are those things because you were raised that way, because we were raised in an entitled, ignorant world. So do better if you want the world to change, or don't do anything and the world will stay the same. We are not asking you to apologize because you exist. We're asking you to acknowledge how your existence impacts people, because we all impact people. All of us impact each other, period. I'll give another funny but also example of why we have ick responses or disgusts to people's habits and why it is a matter of like, who do you want to be around? Okay? Who do we want to be around? Here's an example. Benny Blanco, Selena, I don't know why this podcast is happening, but just watch it.
Or Seinfeld came out
This is that rapper guy.
and impacted society to the fullest extent. The whole goal here, this entire...
Hold on. You can't see, but Benny Blanco's feet are disgusting. Look at his dirty ass feet on the couch. Is this cultural? Yes. I do not allow dirty ass feet on the couch. Look at his feet. This is a cultural example, okay? Dirty ass feet like that, get them off my fucking couch, okay? Get them off my couch. But for all people, it's not necessarily an issue or a moral dilemma. But if you're in my house, I'd be like, you need to wash your feet or get the fuck off my couch, right? Because like, what is this? Now, this is his bubble, but I'm using it as an example of absolutely not, right? Now, it goes further.
In society to the fullest extent. The whole goal here, this entire home is
Wait,
just
see if you guys can pick this up.
And then he just farts, right?
I was gonna pick up. I like that.
That was just a little.
It was a little squeak, like a little.
For some people, farting is just funny. Farting is nothing. For me, that is so fucking rude. Do not fart in my home. Like, do not fart like that. Okay? Like, farting is not cute. I do not want to smell anything. I don't want your fecal matter all over the fucking room. Go to the bathroom. I don't want to. I don't want to. But for other people, it's not that big of a deal. Most of these comments are like, damn, Selena really, really settled, huh? Because for a lot of people, farting is fucking gross. It's fucking gross. You get to decide if it's fucking gross. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying you and us as a culture and a society gets to decide. Guys, there are people on the planet that don't think black people should exist. There's people on the planet that think gay people should be killed. Do you want to build community with those people? Because that's what you're saying. That is what you're saying. You don't know it though. You don't understand that when you say, I'm not going to apologize, you're saying, I want to build community with bigots. Apologizing is not a new thing. You usually learn it in kindergarten. And you learn to apologize whether you intended it or not because you caused harm. When you take that out of your understanding, when you don't learn that, who are the only people you know as a group who refuse to apologize? Stunted, bigoted, ignorant people. Who are the only people you know that jump to the worst conclusions about people and don't want to hear any explanation? Bigoted, uneducated people. The point is that some people fucking suck. The question is which community you're going to be a part of. Which one do you want to be a part of? Here's an example of a woman who was interviewed like 10 years ago. They brought her back up because obviously this is trending, from 60 Minutes, who has one of the worst cases of Tourette's.
Have a better life. Oh, I'm sorry, Mom. It's all right.
You see the way she just hit the fuck out of her own mother and she apologized? Do you know what I'm saying? She hit the fuck out of her mom. She's like, Mom, I'm so sorry. She's devastated. She's literally devastated by this problem. And we can be deeply empathetic to her. But you know what causes empathy to continue is an acknowledgement of like, she's really sorry. John had an opportunity to put out an apology that would have made Black communities feel seen, heard, and then they would have been like, okay, he's not a white supremacist. Because whether you like it or not, a white man saying the hard ER, regardless of context, is going to cause people to get activated. And that's why we do our best. And that's why initially I said Leroy and Michael reacted in a way that to me said, okay, they were giving space to John, but John didn't give it back. Now, allegedly, privately, he apologized to them, but the statement he put out, because now it's public and it impacts communities, has got to also involve that personal apology. Not to the men, because that's not our business, right? But to the community that heard it, because we did hear it. Not we, me, but like we heard it. Okay? So I'm not saying he is racist, though he is a white man who's in his 50s, and I don't know how much he's deconstructed. And plus, when white people say there's not a racist bone in my body, which he did say, it makes me always raise an eyebrow. Because how do you know if you're not racist if you haven't deconstructed? We have to also understand from older communities, as much as you guys think you're doing your best, we know, and this is why we're a progressive space, we know people do a racism all the time. People do an ableism all the time. Hell, I did an ableism when my first thought was maybe he shouldn't go to the awards. And I was like, oh, my bad. Let me catch myself. Right? That's what I'm saying. That's not my thought. I didn't think the thought came to me. Do you know the difference? The difference between this is what I think and this is the thought that showed up, that's ableism. Thoughts show up in our brains. That our brain is like a computer sending ourselves messages. We have to choose which ones to latch on to. And the problem with Tourette's is that he doesn't have a choice in which his latches onto and then speaks all of the time. So that's the problem. So he has an involuntary, and we do too. You know what's funny? You don't even have to have involuntary speak and have Tourette's. People involuntarily speak all the time. How many times have I accidentally said fart on stream when I was like, fart? Why did I say that? We involuntarily speak, and I don't even have Tourette's, right? So we can be very empathetic. We can be very open and understanding to people, right? Like I can definitely, this was such a painful experience for so many people to see this happen. We can definitely meet him where he's at. We just want him to do the same thing back. Like, I feel like if he was progressive, like truly progressive and deconstructed, right away he'd have been like, oh my God, I'm so sorry to the Black community. I love you guys. You're fucking everything. You build culture. You're amazing. I'm so fucking sorry. I hate this fucking thing I have to deal with. And I hate that you have to suffer because of it. And fuck, I'm so fucking sorry. Like, you know what I mean? Like something that acknowledged, you know, because guys, I don't know how to explain to you as a non-Black person, anti-Blackness, and I know Black people already know this, is a global phenomenon, and it's in every corner of the planet. I don't know how to explain. And I spend a lot of my time in Black bubbles because I don't think people spend enough time understanding anti-Blackness. Anti-Blackness, it's a very compounded and hurtful and painful global phenomenon. And it's very hard to reach 55 and say, oh, I'm not racist. I'm not saying you as a consciousness are racist, but to say that, like, have you even started to think about what could be racist, right? I don't know how to explain to you. I'll give you an example. Let me show you this really fast. This is also going viral. This is Cat's Eye. Just look at the way this is. Look at the way the Black woman in this group is being strategically placed.
Some bullshit with Cat's Eye when they were hiding Mana in the choreography of Debut. They literally started their entire journey by hiding this girl in the back of the choreography. We were like, where is she? We were trying to find her. We couldn't find her. And at the time, icons were very vocal about this, but it still does suck to see that, you know, we were right. No one wants to be right in that situation. No one wants to believe that someone is having, you know, internal conflicts with their company. But here we are today, nearly 2 years later, and all of this is unfolding. I don't see a world where Mana will leave Cat's Eye, but I do hope that things change for the best because this group needs her.
How crazy is that? How insane is that? Whoa, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this, okay, but it's more than that. 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 Okay, check out, this is Audre Lorde, lesbian, icon, intersectional, oh, just fabulous, okay?
When you live on the edge of any structure, you have to know that survival is not theoretical. I know that as a Black woman. I know that as a lesbian. Whenever you are conscious that your identity is on the edge, survival becomes very, very real. And once you live on the level of survival as a reality, you learn that you have to value and critique the particulars all the time, because at any moment anything can mean the end. And that gives you a kind of sharpness. Yes, yes, I have no question about it.
Okay, so we know, because, you know, we know there's intersections to this. Let me show you something that, before I go back into anti-Blackness, let me show you something that this TikTok came up on my feed. Just listen to this caller and know that we can also empathize with people with Tourette's, right?
When he was a child, had the word paedophile stuck in his brain.
Right.
And
this is a mom talking about her son.
Would shout that out and shout that out to an umpire during a cricket match. Fathers from the opposition team surrounded him and threatened to punch him. He was 9 years old.
Oh, for goodness sake.
And the more he was intimidated physically, they formed a ring around him and shouted above him.
The fathers did? Or
the fathers, and he was sweating buckets. And you know what his physical reaction was? He shouted the word out louder and faster and with gasping air. So please...
But hang on. Didn't his coach come over and say to the fathers, hey, calm down, this lad's got a condition here, just chill a little?
No, because everybody was so shocked as to what was going on. They'd never seen it before. And then when I ran across the pitch to try and, cover him, they started shouting at me, what kind of parent are you? What have you taught your child?
How terrible.
So listen, he was like 9 years old at the time. We know we live in a shitty world. I need you to first accept that humans suck. You suck. And you're great. But you fucking suck. And we're great. We know we jump to conclusions. We know men under patriarchy always go to violence first. Look at a group of adult men thinking about beating up a kid because he opened his fucking mouth. Listen, okay, when I say that generally speaking, fuck around and find out is funny, but generally, always moving to violence is never the answer. We also understand, though, that the communities that are violent and racist and bigoted will allow your compassion and passivity to be used against you by killing you. So we also understand there is a multi-layer part to this. We can be deeply empathetic, and we can understand that this is why I say when we build community, we have to decide what kind of a community we want. I want a community that doesn't always lead to violence as a solution, because goddamn, right? I want a community that leads with education first. Hey, something is happening and I'm not sure what it is. Let's talk about this. Why is this happening? Why are you screaming at me? During COVID, there were a lot of people who deeply struggled to wear masks and were being triggered or having a psychosis. And people automatically always assumed they were Karens. Some definitely were, most definitely were. But there were some where I was like, oh, this is a medical problem. Like, we're mixing up medical problems with Karens. That doesn't mean people with Tourette's can't be racist. It also doesn't mean that you can't be a well-intentioned person and do a racism. It also means that we in our life are going to do things that isn't good. That's why we have to be a little less bad every day, okay? Like the random fat phobia I see in progressive spaces, the random things I see, like again, as a person with a few diagnoses that are all very much scrutinized, and people say I'm faking, and people say like, oh, she's crazy, she's so unwell. Like, you have to understand, as a person who's functional in her life and living her best life, I want you to live that life, but you cannot listen to these voices on the internet who do not understand your condition. And you can't say with your heart, I understand my condition, but I can't understand blackness or anti-blackness. You have to understand people's perspectives. How can you spend all of your life learning about your own diagnoses and how people mistreat you because of it, but you didn't think about anti-blackness in the world when it is a global problem? Yes, ableism is also a problem, but now what if you're black and disabled? Imagine that. Okay, you're so busy worrying about your Tourette's, you're forgetting about black people. You're so busy thinking about blackness, you're forgetting about ableism, as if black disabled people don't exist. Okay, here's an example.
I was in a situation last year in which I was with this organization, and unbeknown to me, one of the persons in the organization had Tourette syndrome. I did not know that I would be the only black person in the room. And when I got on camera for our virtual meeting, this person with Tourette syndrome began to use racial slurs. And I was really taken aback. And we had to go through a whole meeting in which every time she came off mute, or we all came off mute, I kept on hearing the N-word over and over again.
Like, does she not get to feel activated or upset by that, even though she understands? Does she not get to feel also and say, hey, I know you deserve to be here, and I absolutely believe that, and also I'm activated? It's like people expect her to be like, this doesn't bother me, it's just a word. Okay, yeah, you say it's just a word, but then when I throw insults at you, all of a sudden you're pretty sensitive, right? The same people that are telling black people not to feel sensitive over the N-word are the most sensitive people, let's be so fucking for real, okay? We are all sensitive because it hurts our feelings. Adults need to grow up and acknowledge their feelings are hurt. And they need to acknowledge that, like, hey, an apology would really go a long way. Guys, I am happily married. I am so happily married. And one of the ways in our neurodivergent queer marriage that we express apology is to say, hey, I think that hurt me like 8%. I think my feelings are hurt. I'm so sorry. That is so, you know what my partner says to me when I say that? When I'm like, hey, I think this hurt me 8%, they go, oh my God, that's a lot. I'm so sorry. They don't even want to hurt me 1%. So if they make a joke or I make a joke and we kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Like we accidentally hurt each other's feelings, we will put a percentage on it and then we will say, I am so sorry, and hug it out. And you might think, oh, that's so weak. Oh, that's so pussy, da 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 da. Yeah, with peace and love, bro, you would cry the moment my mouth got anywhere near you. So you would have to hear all the insults I could throw at you. You would cry. You are sensitive. That's why you fight people. Why are men pretending like they're beast or like they're not sensitive? The moment a girl says something about his penis size or something else, all of a sudden he's throwing hands. Domestic violence is so fucking high. Why are men out here pretending they're not sensitive? You're so afraid that when I make a YouTube video, you spaz out in my comment section. How can you tell me words shouldn't matter and then leave me a manifesto that's 10 pages long? Apparently, my words matter. Apparently, when I get on my YouTube stream and I say something and you're offended by it and you leave me all of these comments calling me an idiot, I guess words do matter. How can you say, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so we have to show compassion. Okay, this also happened. Now, I'm gonna show you this clip, but I just want a trigger warning. And I really hesitated to show this, and I don't know if it's even a good idea yet. I'm showing it, I think, because sometimes the way we blur out language makes people not feel how jarring it is to hear certain words. Because as much as we think, and this is the problem with the white supremacy, the white people are like, oh, what about rap music? What about rap music? I listen to so much rap music, so much just, I don't know very many songs. I can't even think of one off the top of my head that uses the hard ER. Yes, they use the soft A, but they don't use the hard ER. So I'm not hearing it all the time. I don't watch white supremacists. I don't hear the hard ER almost ever. I grew up in a household where you were not allowed to cuss, let alone say slurs, and you certainly couldn't say that word. So I didn't hear it a lot growing up, the hard ER. So when I hear it, it's very jarring. And for a lot of people, no matter how many times they've heard it, it's still jarring every time. So I'm going to show you this video, trigger warning, with the word from Kev on stage. It is a black man saying it, but I don't know if you guys saw this story. This is a very real story. I will show you a news story after this to explain to you that it's a very real story. But since they blur out the word, I just want you to hear it from Kev, because I do think that it's different, because it should make you go like this. So, just trigger warning, right? Trigger warning.
After an AI-generated news alert about...
Oh, hold on, girls. So sorry. That was so loud in your ears.
The BAFTA Film Awards racial slur incident included the N-word. Would you like to see?
Okay, so it says Google has apologized after an AI-generated news alert about the BAFTA Film Awards racial slur incident included the N-word.
The news alert that Google's AI sent out? Of course you would. Here it is. How the Tourette's fallout unfolded at the BAFTA film... The Hollywood Reporter. See more on niggers. Interested? Not interested.
That went out on people's phones. That went out on people's phones. That went out on people's phones. That's crazy. Okay, here's TMZ covering the story as well. TMZ, well, hardly news, but here's TMZ.
Apologizing for sending out an offensive notification about the recent BAFTA Film Awards controversy, which included the use of the N-word. The Google push alert comes after Sunday's BAFTA ceremony, where a pre-taped moment aired unedited, showing Tourette's activist John Davidson shouting the N-word while Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were presenting on stage, sparking outrage. Google confirmed to Variety that the slur was sent to only a very small amount of users who have push notifications turned on. The company says it was not caused by an AI system error, despite earlier reports. Instead, Google explained that its safety filters failed after the system picked up a euphemism for an offensive term from several web pages and mistakenly inserted the actual slur into the notification. We're deeply sorry for this mistake, a Google spokesperson said Tuesday. We've removed the offensive notification and are working to prevent this from happening again. Online users are furious, asking how does something like this even happen, and sharing screenshots of the Google alert. Given that the slur was already aired live and left unedited, for Google to turn around and send a push alert repeating the slur, I mean, do you guys think this was an honest mistake, or is this too wild to be accidental?
Listen to me when I say, you have to stay grounded, okay? I want you to be very grounded, okay? Very grounded about what's happening, and to acknowledge that some of this might be on purpose. So we don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, because conspiracy theorists are people who come to conclusions with bad data. We want to come to good conclusions with good data and say, given everything that's happened and given all of the steps that could have occurred to avoid the situation in the first place, it would seem it was manufactured on purpose to continue trending, to manufacture outrage, to make people angry, because angry brings in views, and these companies are struggling. And what's more controversial than the hard ER, right? And then what's more upsetting than doing it during Black History Month? And what's more upsetting than XYZ? So I do think that there are too many people in charge and too many things that should have been put in place beforehand for this not to have occurred. So both tech companies are saying the same thing. We didn't catch it on time. We posted it with our review. Oh, we just didn't hear it happen. Even though, according to some articles that I've read, according to some people, they are reporting that there was communication and that some things just never got censored. So we're hearing multiple stories from multiple people, right? So again, without being a conspiracy theorist, because I think that's really important, we have to make sure that we understand that some of this will be manufactured or at least put out at the expense of marginalized communities, disabled and Black. This is the time for us to come together and say, no, you will not pit our communities against each other. You will not weaponize our minority status against each other. We will not see, we know what's happening, absolutely not. What's tainting this conversation the most is mostly, and I'm going to say this so nicely, white supremacists, boo, but really hurt disabled people. I know you're hurt. Non-Black disabled people. I know you're hurt. I know you feel like you've apologized your whole life for existing. I know you feel like not another person asking me to apologize for something I have no control over. I know. Being a good person is really fucking exhausting. Doing the right thing is really hard. But if you do not do the right thing right now, and if you do not apologize, I know it's so exhausting. And I don't blame you if you feel like crying or shutting down or feeling like, goddamn, how much more am I going to have to do? All of it forever, always. You can give up though. You can throw in the towel. You can say, fuck it, fuck the world, nihilistic perspective, let it burn. Because we really are just a rock, floating in space. Or we can lift each other up and bring each other together into a liberated state of being that says we apologize when we've caused harm and we move forward and accept that apology and move forward. The other part of an apology is that it has to be accepted. Now, you can't force people to accept it. So on the other side, I understand Black communities are suffering. I understand you are so fucking sick of being the target of everyone's fucking hate campaign. You are so fucking tired and you are so pushed down and so neglected. And it is so difficult because not only is the system against you, but your neighbors are too. And that is so fucking hard. And I am so sick of it for you. And I couldn't even imagine being that exhausted every fucking day existing in my body. Okay? And I also understand that you are sick of having to accept white people's apologies about throwing around the N-word. You must be so fucking tired. Because you've heard it your whole fucking life, probably since you were babies. Since you were kids on the playground, you have had to watch white people call you that word. And here you are once again, doing the best, being the gentleman, being the lady, being the grown up, being the better person, being the bigger person. And it's fucking tiring. It's so exhausting. Right? I don't blame you. I'm tired and I'm not even, you know what I mean? I'm tired too. And I'm not even. So I get it. When you are ready and when you are capable, we should accept genuine apologies. But I do not blame you for doubting this is genuine because it certainly wasn't an apology. So I don't think you need to accept John's statement from his press crew. I stand by the Black community in not accepting this statement from John's press crew because it certainly wasn't an apology. If he is to make one in the future, the Black community can decide if they're going to accept it. But I certainly stand with them not accepting this particular statement because they are too tired, too busy to care about another white man who says the N-word and does not see the harm that it caused. Because those are the types of statements we are not accepting as marginalized communities. People who say, I'm sorry you feel that way. People who say, well, I just feel like, you don't understand me. I just feel like, okay. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So can we both hold in our consciousness both of these truths at the same time? Right? Okay. Oh, did I say that, Discord? My bad. Chat said I think spaz is no longer in use and I'm 3 minutes behind. You said it in the comments. I'm so sorry. We don't use that word anymore. You're right. See how it's ingrained? See, I didn't even know I said it. I didn't even know I said it. Discord, I didn't even know I said it. I didn't even process that I said it. There you go. Good example. See? I'll hold myself accountable. I'm so sorry. I did not. I need to make sure I eradicate that from my vocabulary. I know we don't use it anymore. I didn't even realize I said it. But I'm still sorry I said it. Thank you, Discord. I appreciate you. See? As a community, they catch me and go, oh, Britt, use the word. I'm like, fuck, my bad. Let's do something about that. My community calling me out and saying, oh, is not them saying, oh, I'm going to find every reason Brittany's so fucked up and I'm going to find every reason to tear her apart. It's them saying, I know Brittany and I know her heart and I know that she would want me to tell her this. Thank you for telling me. And I know that I have to work on any biological experience of defense I might have and tell my body to calm down because my community is helping me. Because they are right. I set a standard for this community and now we have to reinforce it in one another through love and kindness. Now, remember that this community, right? Sorry, not this community. The BAFTA and BBC had so much power to censor, they censored out this whole speech.
To all those and lastly, to all those whose parents migrated to obtain a better life for their children, to the economic migrant, the conflict migrant, those under occupation, dictatorship, persecution, and those experiencing genocide, you matter, your stories matter more than ever. Your dreams are an act of resistance. To those watching at home, archive your loved ones, archive your stories, yesterday, today, and forever. For Nigeria, for London, the Congo, Sudan, free Palestine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. See, they managed to censor that. Interesting, right? Chad said, who is the community and who gets to speak for it, though? The community is multifaceted. It's a general statement. Obviously, it's difficult because there's 8 billion people on the planet. And so, you know, it depends on where your philosophical perspective is coming from. Obviously, there could be a whole group of marginalized communities that are also discriminating against others. We have the intersection of religion, patriarchal religions brought in as it relates to like racism. We know that we're suffering as a community because humans are a suffering species. We also know we can suffer wisely, which is the goal. Our goal is not to suffer unwisely, which we're doing right now. The goal is to suffer wisely. So it's a good question, but if you don't ask it in good faith, it's a bad question. It's only a good question if it's asked in good faith. Because what you're saying is, there must not be a solution, I might as well give up. There must not be anything worth doing, so I might as well just give in to the state of the world, right? Check this out.
More than inclusion.
Angela Davis, of course.
Inclusion is not enough. Diversity, we want much more than inclusion. Inclusion is not enough. Diversity is not enough. And as a matter of fact, we do not wish to be included in a racist society. If we say no to heteropatriarchy, then we do not want to be assimilated into a misogynist and heteropatriarchal society. If we say no to poverty, we do not want to be contained by a capitalist structure that values profits more than human beings. If we recognize that those who wanted to solve the problem of slavery by creating more humane forms of slavery were employing the logic of racism, we say that those who call for police reform and prison reform while retaining the racist structures as they pretend to address the problems of racism, that they are absolutely wrong. And this is why we say no to carceral feminism and yes to abolition feminism. Yes to abolition feminism.
Okay, example, and this is important. Now, the Republicans are weaponizing this against Gavin Newsom, which, fuck Gavin Newsom, but pay attention to how Gavin Newsom has this conversation with a black crowd in Georgia, okay? I'm like you. I'm a 960 SAT guy too. I can't read. Listen to this.
I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just trying to impress upon you. I'm like you. I'm no better than you. I'm a 960 SAT guy. and I'm not trying to offend anyone, trying to act all there if you got 940. But literally a 960 SAT guy. I cannot, you've never seen me read a speech because I cannot read a speech. maybe the wrong business to be in.
If that was your attempt to relate to
Okay. That part, well, I'll just play out the TikTok. Hold on.
Black people, then that was the most stupidest shit you could ever say. And in my opinion, that was racist.
I think it was racist too. Okay, here's the thing that I want you to understand. The reason the left, far left, or whatever you want to call us, the progressives, are upset with Gavin Newsom is because he is a liberal working within the system to uplift and maintain the system. So when Angela Davis says, like, we don't want any part of your racist society, I also don't want any part of your homophobic society or transphobic society, which Gavin Newsom has displayed, right? I don't want any part of this patriarchal society. I don't wanna. When we talk about like who can speak for a community and who can move forward, we're all in community and we're all in different communities. When my family says, we really want you to be a part of this community, and I said, at a distance, I'm happy. But I can't be directly involved in this community in the sense that I can't stop but interrupt the speech that I am hearing when I'm with this community. Now, here's something I want you to take for yourself. I don't want you to watch my streams and use these tools on the internet. I want you to use them in your real life. Because remember, when I go home, I have a real community. A community I'm obligated to, a community I live within, a community I pay taxes for, a community I'm here to break generational curses, a community that I'm here to say, we're not doing this anymore, a community I call on the phone and say, hey, how are you? Did you get your medication today? Hey, I love you. How are you doing? How's your therapy sessions? Hey, like, did you do that thing you needed to do? Did you get that job you wanted? Or a community that says, hey, you better leave that person alone, okay? Or hey, you did something bad. You know, I have a real community that I got to call and take care of. You have a community you have to call and take care of. And that's the power we have. Now, listen, and I want you to really process this information while I play this video for you. Okay? I want you to process something. Hold on, let me make sure it's muted. Okay, we are just animals on a planet floating in space. We cannot change the world. We are never going to change the world, but we are going to change our communities. We're going to uplift those communities, and that's who can speak on those communities. You are in communion with somebody. You're in communion with yourself, with loved ones, with churches, with neighborhoods, with jobs. We are in communion. And when you are in communion with people, you can change the trajectory of those communities. You can change so much in your life. You are, yes, in a floating rock in space, but you are not nihilistic. We are not giving up. We are not throwing in the towel. We are hunkering down, if anything, girls. We are focusing our community. We are, locking arms and doing what's right by our community. So your communities are small, and small communities do the most work. Larger communities, this is why I don't really believe in systems. And I think, I believe in systems, but I think the work is difficult to be done in systems because, again, the systems are already run by powers of oppression, and they maintain that power because our communities are dying. So if we focus on smaller effort communities and we liberate everybody up, then the systems will be a reflection of that. Because right now the systems are exploiting our vulnerabilities and our lack of community. And I'm saying it would to press upon you, as Gavin Newsom just said, okay, I would press upon you the power you do hold in your direct communities. And then remember that you are just like a speck of dust living in the universe. And you have to hold those two things at the same time in the palm of your hand. I am a person with so much power, and yet I am a speck of dust in the universe. Okay? And those two things are true, and that speck of dust in the universe has so much power. Right? And that's the point that I want to make for you. So don't feel overwhelmed. Don't feel like giving up. Feel excited that you have so much power within you. And you can also do the other thing. If zooming out doesn't help your philosophical joy and liberate your consciousness from the world, then zoom in. Remember, I am liberated. Brittany is liberated as a person. My consciousness is liberated. But my body lives here on this planet, and I'm existing with these people. And I mean that in the most scientific way possible, the most grounded, scientific, data-based way. We are born free. And it is society, it is people that keeps us threatened. It is our communities, it's our parents, it's our friends, it's our family members, it's our boss, it's the structures, yes, maintained by people who love us or say they love us. The biggest problem in our life is our community. Our communities are struggling because a lot of people in our communities don't know how to fucking apologize. An apology goes a long way. What is Trump's most infamous quote that he's never asked God for forgiveness? This man won't apologize. And you don't think that that's a problem? That's a huge problem. So if zooming out doesn't help you, zoom in.
Discovering an entire world no human knew. Imagine discovering an entire world no human knew existed. This drop of pond water is likely similar to what Antony van Leeuwenhoek saw for the very first time in 1674, using lenses he made by hand. He became the first person to observe microorganisms, living creatures he called animalcules. Before this moment, the existence of single-celled life was completely unknown. His curiosity revealed life everywhere he looked, from protozoa to nematodes to rotifers. In doing so, he opened an entirely new field of science and became known as the father of microbiology. It is remarkable to realize that it all began with curiosity and a single drop of water.
So it's kind of interesting whether you zoom out and you realize you're a speck of dust in the universe, or you zoom in and realize you're probably these little bugs to like the universe. Either way, the point is we're so small, but we have so much impact. We're so small, but we mean so much. And it really could change the world if we learn to apologize. Like, not just say sorry for sorry's sake, but to actually deeply understand why I'm even sorry in the first place. By the way, I always say this to my family and friends, you don't have to apologize until you're ready, because the last thing I need is another fake apology. You can apologize when you're ready. And if you're never ready for that apology, open with boundaries. I'm open with boundaries, right? We are truly an animal species evolved on a planet. We don't know what we're doing here. We don't know how we got here. And though people are definitely creating reasons and, trying to explain why they think we got here, right? We don't know that. We don't really know that. Now, with that said, I want to read this comment to you because I think if I haven't answered it yet, I'll answer it in this. It says, I just wanted to start by saying I really enjoy your content and your philosophical takes, but I wanted to share why I felt uneasy about your response to the situation with John Davidson. I get your point that apologies are meaningful when they are right, when they right a wrong and show understanding of harm. Like you said, I don't feel shame when I apologize because when I mean it, I feel proud that I righted a wrong. I did say that in a comment reply. And apologies need to show understanding of harm. Otherwise, they're just PR statements. Okay, I did write that as well. I agree, which is why I don't see a public apology is necessary here. It's interesting. They say, I agree with this and I agree, which is why I don't see a public apology is necessary. So right away, I'm like, huh? They said the N-word is heavy. And I feel that as a black person, I'm not dismissing that. Are they saying they are a black person? I just want to wait. The N-word is heavy. And I feel that as a black person, okay, I think they're saying they are a black person. I'm not dismissing that, or the long history of having us. History of us having to give grace or absorb pain to preserve other people's dignity. Okay. But in this case, there's no wrongdoing to right. Interesting. It was involuntary. Prior announcements, disclaimers were apparently given about him and his condition to the audience beforehand and throughout. Also, past statements from him show that he doesn't endorse racial slurs. Sure. That being said, BAFTA and BBC should have been more transparent and proactive about these announcements, since they would have helped see context for everyone. They would have helped set context for everyone. John acknowledged the harm in multiple ways in his statement by stating their intent and saying how mortified they were if anyone took their tics as intentional. I think that's part of the problem. That's not a good apology. He also thanked the audience and organizers for understanding, and he even dismissed himself knowing his tics were causing distress. That to me is acting with care and awareness of impact. It is acting with some care, right? I agree that it is acting with some care. They go on to say, from a justice perspective, there's no moral blame. From a care perspective, the harm was already addressed. So from a moral perspective, morals are subjective. Morals are built on the foundation of your values. So for Britney's morals, there is a wrong that was done, and I would like to right that wrong. I think it is, for Britney, it is immoral when, I'll give an example that's personal. If let's say I'm having an autistic, overstimulation meltdown, okay? It would be immoral if I looked at my partner in that moment and said, you're overstimulated and go fucking kill yourself. I fucking hate you. Yo, hello, wait a second. My married partner, my friends and family can understand that I don't mean that, but I don't need to blurt out the most hurtful thing that I can possibly blurt out in a moment where they're trying to be helpful. So let's say I blurt that out. Let's say I'm like, fuck, like I just feel this way. I'm so sorry. I just need to be left alone. Maybe I feel that way. I'm really overstimulated. I would apologize and say, I am so fucking sorry. I'm really overstimulated and I fucking suck right now. And I just feel like I need 10 fucking minutes. I love you. And they go, damn, okay, thank you. I'm acknowledging that was very hurtful. And they're walking away and giving me space. They're not saying, well, you said this to me, but I'm trying to help you and you're ungrateful. They'll say, hey, I love you. I'm trying to help. What can I do? The idea is that we say things we don't mean all the time. I believe it is my moral obligation to apologize for that, right? That's my morals. There's no objective morality. So you have to decide, right? Let's see. Antifa, like Tifa, that's funny. Thank you for the super chat. Says, ultimately, you are asking a marginalized person to apologize for their disability. I think you're causing harm by doing this. I'm not, though. I'm not asking you to apologize for their disability. I'm asking them to apologize for the harm caused, regardless of intention. I'm not asking you to apologize for being disabled. I'm not asking you to apologize for existing. I'm not asking you to apologize. I'm not asking you to apologize for being disabled. I'm not asking that. Okay? I'm not asking that. Do you understand that I'm not asking that? I'm not asking that. I want to make that abundantly clear. I am speaking for my own morals, and Brittany's morals say I would apologize. I am advocating. I'm not making a prescription, but I am saying in my ideal world where we're deeply understanding and we're healing wrongs, I would apologize. You know what I'm saying? You said, no, you are, though. His take is his disability, and you're asking him to apologize for it. Okay, again, I'm not asking him to do anything. Let me make clear, I don't care what this man does, but he's not invited to the barbecue. He can't come hang out with us because he's not safe enough for all the marginalized communities that I would invite, because not all marginalized communities are safe for one another. I'm also not inviting my homophobic Assyrian cousins or my transphobic parents either. Because again, like, you can come if you have a disability that ticks the N-word. You can't come if when you tick the N-word, you don't think about the impact it's making to my Black friends that are coming. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm not making a prescription. I'm not telling him what can happen. I'm just saying you're not invited then. If you're not willing to apologize for the way that it appears, you can't come. If he shows up and he says, and we all agree blanket consent, he's going to throw some slurs around. Do we all understand this could happen? And do we also give space to people to maybe lock themselves in a bedroom to cool down because it gets overstimulating? Yes, sharing space with people is hard. Congratulations. Welcome to adulting. Sharing space is very difficult. Are we willing to face this discrimination, right? Are we willing to face this difficulty head on? You said, I'm not giving this bitch any money for this shit. I'm just unsubscribing and never listening to this discriminatory horse shit as well. I see you're triggered. Thank you for the super chat. I see you are struggling. You did use a slur at me just now. So just for the record, you threw a slur at me in order to express your pain. And I'm saying, even though you're in pain, you don't get to throw a slur out at me. You see how you did that? And I know in this moment, I'm not going to get my feelings hurt about it because right now I'm playing teacher and right now I'm in charge. But you see how you needed to use a slur to express your pain? And I'm saying, exactly. I know you're hurting, and this is why hurt people, and I'm saying you need to regulate. You are immorally acting right now. You are being inappropriate. You said you're being hurtful to the Tourette's community, and now you're tone policing as you just threw a slur at me. So I'm going to go ahead and block you from the community because you might be accidentally doing more harm to my community at large. You don't get to throw a slur at me because you're in pain. Okay? But I hear you and I see that you're in pain and I wish you the best. The chatter in my YouTube comment section goes on to say, from a justice perspective, there is no moral blame. From a care perspective, the harm was already addressed. The necessity of a public apology would risk symbolic punishment, shaming someone for something that's out of their control. If he had said, hey guys, I love the Black community. You guys are the best. And I never want you to feel like I am excluding you from inclusion. There are Black people with Tourette's. I love you all. We're in this together. Fuck any white supremacist using my disability to empower white supremacy. I love you all. I'm so fucking sorry for saying the N-word. Tourette's fucking sucks. And I'm so glad this movie came out and is raising awareness. Black Lives Matter, Free Palestine, Free Sudan, you know what I'm saying? Like, if that shit came out of his mouth, we would have been like, because we would have known what side he was on. But now he gave us a PR response, did not signal any side that he's on. I can't tell where he's coming from. And his loudest supporters are white supremacists and hurt Tourette's people, which I hurt disabled people who are now throwing slurs at me for being hurt. I hear you. But also, he's not apologizing for having Tourette's. He's apologizing. You know what I mean? He did it, Sydney Sweeney. He did a bit, right? This commenter goes on to say, which could reinforce ableism. I think the focus should be on holding BAFTA and BBC accountable and their blatant selective censoring, actually reducing the stigma, increasing the understanding of the condition, and supporting harm reduction. I also agree with this. Goes back to systems versus individuals. Individuals are still responsible for their actions, but the systems play a larger role. The system could have avoided this. The system could have prevented this, and it didn't, which is why it came at the expense of all of us. That doesn't mean we as individuals aren't responsible, okay? Responsible. Okay, let's see. They said, while also keeping in mind the experiences of Black people and the weight the word carries, understanding both ableism and the impact of the word together feels like more compassionate approach. Just my thoughts. Curious what you think about balancing justice and care in this situation. So did I make it clear? Did I communicate the balance here? The balance to say the way you approach this matters. Yes, the system failed, but you're still responsible. Again, you cannot do bad things to your family and friends and go, the system, bro, white supremacy, bro, ableism, bro, poverty, capitalism, bro. Hey, I know I raped you, but patriarchy, bro. I'm not responsible for raping you because, patriarchy conditioned me this way. So like, no, you're still responsible. Oh yeah, dude. Well, I grew up in a homophobic household, so it's just culture, bro. Well, I was taught trans people are mentally ill, so like, it's my culture, bro. No, absolutely not. Okay. Yeah, boys will be boys. Thank you, chat. Boys will be boys. Absolutely not. And that's what you're saying. You're saying that because again, explanations, not excuses. You explain why it happened. You don't excuse it. The explanation, Tourette's. The excuse cannot not also be Tourette's. You can't excuse a slur because it's Tourette's. You know what I'm saying? Yes, he didn't intend to say it. Okay. Though, if you have just for the record, if you have a really white supremacist, racist person with Tourette's, you actually would not know if they intended to say it or not. So you're lucky anyone's even giving him the benefit of the doubt. Because there are words he says on purpose. And if you're a white supremacist with a Nazi tattoo who says the N-word and has Tourette's, do you know what I'm saying? That's why we're being cautious, because we don't know you. We don't know who you are. And so we don't know your Tourette's might be the answer. We might be okay. But we don't know. And that's the point. To have such good faith in the world requires all of us to have good faith back. And the way he could have built that good faith with the Black community is just by acknowledging them in the first place. But they were not acknowledged. They were not considered. And because of that, it feels very, very hard to then consider him. How can you blame people for being like, what do you mean when you say that? Chess says, I don't understand why we can't excuse what he did in this scenario, but also acknowledge the way it hurts. In therapy, we learn to explain, not excuse, because excuses are made to absolve all hurt done. But if you can explain why it happened, you absolve the hurt with knowledge and education. When you excuse, you don't allow for education or acknowledgement or explanation. When you excuse, you don't actually build better to be preventative next time or to learn. Okay? So that's why we explain it, so we understand, so we're educated, and then we know what to do next time. So if let's say somebody sits there on the sidewalk and he throws a slur at them. He goes, I have Tourette's, it's a medical condition. And the people, oh, okay. And then they walk away, not learning what Tourette's was. That's not an explanation. Saying I have Tourette's doesn't do anything. What if nobody knows what Tourette's is? Like we've learned over the last few days, a lot of you don't know what Tourette's are. You don't know what it is, right? So he can't just say, I have Tourette's. He has to say, oh, I have a neurological condition that causes involuntary tics that sometimes and a lot of the time will be very hurtful to people, so I'm so sorry about that. And I wish it wasn't so, but it is a condition I live with every day. If you want to learn more about it, I have a movie on it, a book about it, a resource about it. And of course, you know, I just hope that you're understanding, but I understand, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, you know? Right? But now you have to understand, like, we're all wounded. The world is so wounded. And so it just feels like I'm exhausted. I don't know who to trust. We have to go over and beyond to express safety because the world is an incredibly unsafe space. You know what I mean? And I understand. I do. That you're thinking about how exhausting it is to explain your condition, which is why a lot of us don't tell people what we have, which is why a lot of us just mask. It's why a lot of us do a lot of things. But can I just, again, I'm not asking him to educate people. Just like I'm not expecting Black people to educate people about the N-word. And as adults, who is an activist, I think it's kind of his job maybe to educate people on Tourette's. Is he not an activist? Educating people on Tourette's? Do you know what I mean? So like, yeah, he has to decide what his role is. And this is why I'm critical of white men in positions of power. White men being praised. I mean, this man had a movie made after him and he got awards. He's not exactly nobody, right? So yeah, you're in a position of power. You have a microphone. Congratulations on having the responsibility of using it correctly. It's hard, isn't it, to be a good person? I say it time and time again, and I'll say it forever. It's very hard to be a good person. I work on it every day. But even saying that probably triggers something inside of you, right? You're probably like, well, I'm a good person. I don't have to work on it. Okay. You're saying, oh my God, Brittany's admitting she's not a good, none of us are good people, and all of us are good people. Okay? We are all struggling. And until you acknowledge that, you know what I'm saying? And by the way, and I just want to make this clear. Let me show you this. Hold on, give me a second. Because this is the problem people have to understand of what we're dealing with in the world, okay? And I'll wrap up this segment in a second, okay? Give me a second. So we're dealing with a multi-layered issue, and this is just a reflection of the struggle the world is having as a whole. And I want you to understand that this is just the beginning, okay? We can't even agree on the use of the hard ER, right? Which you think would be kind of easy. And okay, Black people have to deal with anti-Blackness in ways that I don't think you understand, because every time they say anything about it, you say they're complaining, they're over-exaggerating, it doesn't exist. Well, this just happened. Allison Friedman, a Hunter College professor in New York City, has sparked widespread backlash after she was caught on a hype mic making comments about Black students. Black kids, Black students, Black adults have been telling you their teachers fucking hate them. They're discriminating against them. They are absolutely bullying them, and you ignore them. You say they're unruly. It's just how Black kids are. Black kids are bad students. White supremacist teachers are teaching these kids, okay? She is blurred in this video, which I think is frustrating, but she's the blurred square, okay, on the screen. Let me try to enhance it for you.
You train a Black person well enough, they'll know to use the back. You don't have to tell them anymore.
Allison Friedman. A professor from Hunter College, Allison Friedman, is getting slammed online after she was caught on a hot mic during a school virtual meeting where she said this while a Black 8th grader student was talking.
Friday, he delivers lessons and helps us fit those skills into our lessons.
Black schools that like they're too dumb to know they're in a bad school.
Independent in our class.
I mean, apparently Martin Luther King said it. Like, if you train a Black person well enough, they'll know to use the back. You don't have to tell them anymore.
Allison Friedman, what you're saying is absolutely hearable here. You gotta stop. This happened at a community education council meeting where families and educators were talking about potential school closures in New York City. The Manhattan Bureau President Brad Segal called her comments outrageous, and The Times has reported that Friedman has apologized for her comments, saying, "My comments make clear these views are not my own, nor were they directed at any student or
How are these thoughts not your own? How are they not your own?
Group. I fully support these courageous students in their efforts to stop school closures. However, I recognize these comments caused harm and pain. While that was not my intent, I do truly apologize."
Oh, so it wasn't your intent. She goes, like, I think she's quoting Martin Luther King, or she thinks she is, because she's like, oh, like he always says. And I'm sitting here like, so it's not your intent? Now, do you understand why it is a big ask. It is a huge ask for you to ask Black communities to take the higher road or be extra considerate when a white man yells the hard R. You know what I mean? Like, do you understand that they have been gaslit all of this time, and all of like anti-Blackness is a global phenomenon. They are being gaslit constantly as a community that their pain is not real, that their pain is not valid, that they are exaggerating or making, you see racism everywhere, you see it everywhere. And that's why I say we have to see the intersection between disability and Blackness. And we have to understand disabled Black people with Tourette's also exist, that they will experience both things. They will experience racism and ableism, that as a community, we want a community that encourages people to apologize, to deeply empathize, and to say, you know, to even meet the person who's apologizing where they're at. Hey, bro, honestly, I don't know how to apologize to you. This is an example. Hey, bro, I don't know how to apologize to you because I feel like I'm right. And I'm really struggling to see how I'm wrong right now. And I just want to lie to you and be like, okay, then we'll take some time off from one another because, you know, this is too painful for both of us. Let's be open with boundaries. Let's sit on it for a few weeks and let's see if we can come back and see each other better. And if we can't, maybe this is the end of our friendship. You know, it is what it is. But like, you know, and for a lot of us, you have to understand we've been trained, especially in immigrant households or in certain kinds of households, to just always put our feelings aside, right? If you're the whistleblower in the family, you tend to be called like, oh, you're making drama out of everything. You're always, you know, causing a problem. Can we all just get along? And it's like, I want to get along with a community that's aiming to be healthy. And this is so just a great example of how our communities are always going to be suffering. And so again, try not to save the world because you can't. Try not to heal the world because you can't. But you can make a difference in your community. We know we can because protesting works, therapy works, meditation works, education works, feeding people works, building structures works. Like we in our communities can make a difference. And so once you understand the power you have in your community, maybe you'll take on the responsibility of the power you have with your body, with your words, and to be an example of somebody who says, I'm so sorry my body did this. I'm so sorry my words did this. I'm so sorry my brain did this. I love you. I'm so sorry. This is why I'm very cautious about the communities I hang out with online now, because when my diagnoses were being weaponized against me, it made me feel, and I think they were doing it on purpose 100%, it did make me feel at a loss. It made me understand why for so much of my life I suffered from unaliving thoughts. And it's because I didn't know where I belonged in the world and nobody understood me until they did. And once I recognized that I first have to understand myself, it made it easier to communicate with people. And if people didn't want to hear it, they didn't want to hear it, right? Like now I can say to my community, like I'm saying to you today, this community will not engage in ableism or racism. Instead, we will see the intersection of these two communities and do everything we can to uplift these communities together because they do overlap. They exist with each other. They are not opposites. Liberation for all or liberation for none, right? We want to lift everybody up and move into a world where adults, especially in the community, see how I'm holding adults in the community accountable to set an example for younger people. Because remember, at the end of the day, young people are watching us and they are seeing how we react when we do anything, and they are saying, well, my hero, John, he said the N-word. Why should he have to apologize? I'm not going to apologize if he doesn't have to apologize. Oh, my hero, so-and-so. And I'm saying, if kids are watching me, even by accident, because I typically don't have a younger audience, then I want them to hear that Brittany apologizes, even when she doesn't intend to do harm. So I'm going to apologize. Because I think that's better for the world. I'm not making a prescription. You can do what you want. You were going to do it anyways. But I try to apologize even when I don't intend harm. And one last thought, because it just came to my mind. There are going to be communities that will weaponize your apology against you. Think about your Machiavellian mothers. These Machiavellian mothers. These parents, these abusive parents who push you into a corner and say, you just never apologize to me. You are never grateful for me. You say sorry, but you don't mean it. Yeah, guys, those are mentally unwell human beings who are philosophically evil. Remember that though there will be communities that weaponize your apologies, make sure when you give an apology, it's authentic regardless of who accepts it, and walk away if necessary. Okay? You do not have to be in communion with every single person you meet. You do not have to form a community with every single person you know, even if they look like you, even if they share your disability, even if they have the same labels as you. You must be in community with people that share values, because the values will move the community forward. Okay? So do not let your compassion be weaponized, but do not lose your compassion because people will weaponize it against you. Because I know that's how a lot of people feel right now. Okay? Okay. I think that's it. That's what I wanted to say on this topic. I think we covered everything.